Hello. Well, that happened. That was not good. That was not how that was supposed to end. They were looking like they were going to sweep through this tough back-to-back, smoking Colorado, and then looking real good for certainly the first period was excellent. And then the second period I thought was solid, and then wheels came off in that third period. But like, let's focus. Let's focus. All right, the audio sucks again. This one. Muted. Okay, there we go. This mic sucks. This mic is officially garbage. I'm deciding. It's done. I'm done for. It's over. So what I was saying was that the Golden Knights played great for 5 consecutive periods. Certainly excellent for 4 consecutive periods, and then not all that good for the last period, obviously. So let's start with the good. Let's start with things that worked out over the last couple of days. Few different things that I've liked very much. Jack Eichel, until that one turnover, very, very good. Like, his shot is all of a sudden on target. He's making the plays. You can see the indecision that everybody has to have around him on the defense when he has the puck, when he's bringing the puck up the ice. He was dominant in that game against Colorado. He was excellent for the first 2 periods in this game, really driving play. Like, that's what we want to see. And that's where that line has started to really become the dominant force that they were. Now, once we get Marchessault scoring at the level that he had been scoring at, obviously the hat trick a few games ago, but once we get that a little bit more consistency, I think you're going to see a lot more of that line being very good. Stone was awesome yesterday in the Colorado game. I thought that was maybe Mark Stone's best game. Obviously the 2 shorthanded games, but there's 2 shorthanded goals, but overall, like at 5-on-5, he was very good. Just making plays in the neutral zone, making that little slow play. He had a couple of good plays today where he kind of finds guys where you maybe would not think that he'd be able to make that play. So that was certainly a positive. Carlson's been awesome pretty much all season. His line has been consistent. I've been very happy with Dorofeev over the last couple of games. That's been really positive to see him stepping into that spot and kind of taking that spot and saying, this one should be mine. They've been solid defensively. They've been creating offense the entire way. Karlsson obviously driving that line, which is not something we always see out of Will Karlsson. So I think that's something that we can really be excited about moving forward. Because you even look at like the postseason, the back half of the postseason, the front half, Karlsson was scoring quite a bit. The back half, it slowed down a little bit from him. And I would just say, like, over the course of William Karlsson's career as a Golden Knight, he's not necessarily a line driver. So to see him with 2 players that are also not line drivers, for him to be able to do that, and that's where I thought they really got after Colorado, was like, as the lines turned over, Vegas's got better and better and better, where Colorado's was getting worse and worse and worse as they went down the list. And so that's where I thought that's why that game was taken over so well. And then the biggest part to me over the course of the last 5 periods, except for the last period tonight, is they've been awesome defensively at keeping the puck away from the middle. When the puck's coming up the center of the ice through the neutral zone, they're kicking it to the outsides. They're forcing it in deep. When the puck is in deep, no matter how often they're going low to high, the only pass that's going through the center is point to point. And really, there's usually 3 guys in between the goal and the puck at that point. So it's not all that difficult or all that like dangerous at that point. So that is something that I've seen the last couple of games that's been really, really exciting to understand that, like, in many ways, that is the new style that, like, when the Golden Knights are at their best, we're just going to assume the offense is going to be there until it's not. And it's been there for a pretty extended period of time now throughout all 13 of these games, certainly the games in the playoffs, and then obviously the run all the way from the All-Star break. Like, the offense has been there. It really has not dried up. I think Eichel has a huge part in that being the case. But when the Golden Knights are at their best, it's simply making the plays inside of the defensive zone that they need to make. So when it's set up, when all 10 guys are in that zone, all 10 skaters, the Golden Knights are usually in very good position. 2 defensemen on the post, center kind of in the middle, 2 wingers up wide, but not all that high up towards the points to kind of really collapse the defense and not give a lot of opportunity to shoot. Where they fell apart in this game, that really has not happened basically all season. We saw a little bit of it at different times, but certainly nothing to the level we saw tonight, is when the puck is shot and blocked, or it finds its way up to a corner or whatever, they have to be able to make the right play to get it off. The wall play has to be good. The stick paddles have to be good. The positioning has to be good. They have to be physically active and make the right play and make the play properly. If it's a little 7-foot pass, it's got to be tape to tape. In this period, this third period, it simply wasn't. There were a number of errors, there were a number of issues that led to perfectly dangerous chances for the Ducks that usually wouldn't be there. And so that's why, to me, you look at, okay, what may have happened in that situation? And there's certainly an argument to be made 3 out of 3 games in 4 days. There's certainly an argument to be made that Anaheim is playing very well. They've been off since Wednesday, so they've been sitting here waiting for this opportunity, and clearly they had a little bit of a come to Jesus moment in the second period there, in the second intermission, saying, hey, we need to play better. And I thought they were better in that second period. I actually thought the Ducks played better in the second period than they maybe did in the third. The second period, they were generating the chances themselves, and they were putting the Golden Knights under some pressure by actually making some plays, holding onto the puck in the offensive zone, and actually dragging the Golden Knights away from some of the things that they like to do in the defensive zone. In the third period, to me, it was mostly errors from the Golden Knights. It was mostly having opportunities to clear, having passes to make, having stick battles to win, and not actually getting it done. So that's the part that kind of bugged me there. This Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Winning has mattered a lot for the Golden Knights. 11-1-1. So we're not losing our minds here. We're not freaking out. But I'm not all excuses tonight because, honestly, it's 2-0 going into the third period against a team that you're probably better than and should be better than, even with all the things stacked up against them. Plus, I believe there were 2 power plays the Golden Knights had in that period, if I'm not mistaken. They had a shorthanded breakaway that Eichel wasn't able to finish on. Like, there were a lot of opportunities to make something happen. And then beyond that, the first chance all season that they've had with their goalie out, and it looked a mess. Like, it looked terrible. Now, it's important to note what the situation is, that there probably were some tired legs. There probably were some guys gasping for air and that type of thing, but it's 2-0. You've got a good situation. You're in a good spot. Like, that's a game you probably want to win. And, like, obviously, if it weren't 11-0-1 coming into this, if it were basically any normal situation, we would not be all that happy about what went down in this game and how it went down and how it kind of fell apart as that game went on. So to me, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, that's one we could just throw in the dumpster, because I do think there is something to be said about how the Ducks started attacking in that second period and how that ended up leading to some of the breakdowns. On the flip side, no Martinez, no Whitecloud, no Hague. All 3 of them shouldn't be all that long. Whitecloud's been back on the ice. We have the upper body, whatever they're calling that, for Martinez. He blocked the shot, and then he ends up playing a good majority of the rest of the game last night, then doesn't make this trip. Little weird there. We'll see what happens. But certainly, as we look at the roster, it's not the same Korczak, Hutton, Pahal as Whitecloud, Hague, Martinez. There's no argument there. So I think as a whole, you look at the first 5 periods of this run, this little 2-game run here, and you say that's the Golden Knights at something close to their best. So the positive that you want to take out of these last couple of days, and I don't think there's any way around it, is it wasn't pretty. It wasn't going great up until basically the Winnipeg game. Then all of a sudden, Winnipeg game, it started to kind of funnel in the right direction, and then all of a sudden, it all goes in the right direction against Colorado. And Colorado's a team the Golden Knights have the ability to frustrate. They've done this for a long time. They've done it through different systems. they got to Colorado in that game. Colorado had some chances. They weren't able to finish them, but for the most part, they were not allowing them to get through the middle of the ice. They were challenging them with good gaps. That's another thing that I've been really happy with in the last couple of games is the stick work in the neutral zone and gaps from basically everybody, not only the defensemen challenging really high. Like, we're gapping up against the red line and challenging dump-ins as opposed to just gapping up against the blue line, which is basically what you're looking for. Third period, again, that kind of fell down a little bit. I thought more so it was dump-ins that the Golden Knights weren't getting back on quickly enough. That's another thing that we've seen certainly in the Colorado game. A lot of skating it out of their own zone. So Eichel would pick it up and skate it out. Theodore would pick it up and skate it out. Hutton had a good one that he skated out. There was a good one in the Washington or Winnipeg game as well. So there's a lot to look at in these last 5 periods prior to the last disastrous one and say, that's the Golden Knights at their absolute best. And I said this before, and I think I'm going to stick with this moving forward, is like the Golden Knights at their best are not 7-0. Now, we got it in that particular game. It's closer to the Winnipeg game. But then there's also going to be a game like this one where they are very good. They do get a lot done. And then there's some failures on the power play. They aren't able to cash in on a shorthanded opportunity. And a little bit of like a goofy swatted puck kind of turned the game around with that early goal in the third period. And all of a sudden, now we don't feel as good about where we're at, despite having played very, very well. And that's where you start getting that doubt creeping in. You start feeling the legs saying, I don't really have it tonight. And it kind of got away from them. So, I'm not going to try to excuse what happened in this particular game and say that this thing got away, but or whatever. I think it did get away. They did kind of give it away. They were at fault for not getting to the finish line today, but it's 11-1-1, and it's coming off the heels of, without question, their best game of the season last night. Like Cassidy said after the game last night, it wasn't a 7-0 game. And I would probably agree because very rarely are NHL games not involving the San Jose Sharks 7-0 games. But the Golden Knights were a lot better than Colorado in that game. Like, Colorado's going through a weird spell right now. I think it's 9 periods in a row where they haven't scored on the road. So that's a little bit odd. But Vegas kind of took it to them. Like, that's what you want to see. You want to see. And again, like, the biggest part that I'm looking at is, what is going right for the Golden Knights when things are going well? What does it look like when it goes well? And I thought the first period today, it was probably one of my favorite periods the Golden Knights have played all season, because there's just nowhere to go for the Anaheim Ducks. There's nothing. There's nothing they can possibly do. There's no ice to skate into in the middle, and they basically have to rely on shots from the point and then winning onto rebounds. And when the Golden Knights are moving their feet and skating in the defensive zone and making those plays out, they're very difficult to beat in that situation. And this isn't a team, like Killorn changes it a little bit, but this is not a team, that Anaheim, that's going to be able to get in there and kind of bully you and push you out of the way and force you out of what you do. Haven't really seen a team that's been able to do that for quite some time. So that's what's good, is we've seen now there is a very clear identity. And we saw, like last year, Cassidy kept calling them imperfect, and they're kind of an imperfect team. I'm not sure I see that anymore. There's some perfection to what they do now and how they're going about it and how they defend and what you're just not able to do against them. That, again, fell apart in the third period. News on Wah. There's not much other than the fact that he had a jersey in his locker on yesterday, morning skate yesterday. So the jersey's in his locker. That indicates that he is skating. They have like their own ice time where the guys who are injured will skate. I would assume he would have either taken part in that or he was going to be close to taking part of that. Whether that actually happened or not yesterday or today or whenever, I don't know. But we must not be too far off on that one. I don't know what the injury was on that one, so not exactly sure how far that one's going to be. White Cloud looks like he's awfully close, and then obviously we don't have much information on either Haig or Martinez at this point. Vegas at their best, over and under 115 points. Let me answer that, but let me first tell you about Graffiti Park, a new sponsor at SinBin.vegas. Graffiti Park is a great locally owned company that has contracted over 100 artists since 2020, and they will paint murals in your backyard, in your garage, in your house, on your porch, wherever you would like it. They're fantastic. Mural painters in your business, that's another good place to have it. At your school, wherever. Here's a good example from right here in Vegas not too long ago. I think you can imagine what that might look like if we did a little bit more of the topic that we talk about on this show. I think you could have a feeling what that might look like. Go to graffitipark.org and commission them for a job. They're fantastic. You will not be disappointed. It's a unique way to get something really special. Like art is hard to come by, especially like unique and one-of-a-kind art, and that's what they offer. They have all sorts of different artists, and they'll match you with the right one. Good stuff. Graffitipark.org. Go there. So let's go back to this one. Best over and under, at their best, over and under 150 points. At their best, they're well over 115 points. Like, are they going to be at their best the entirety of the season? Are they going to be able to be healthy enough to be at their best the entirety of the season? We will see. But I think at their best, if they're playing at the level that they can play at, I think 120 is like a minimum. Like, I think we're pushing closer to 125, 128, something like that. That being said, I don't think that's where we're going to land. I think we're closer to that 115 because I think there are going to be some difficult stretches. We've got the road trip coming up. Vegas has played a majority of their games at home thus far this season. They have not played all that difficult of a schedule, despite the fact that they wiped the floor with Colorado a couple days ago. Overtime against Dallas, overtime against LA, and then now the loss on the road here against Anaheim. Like, it's yes, 11-1-1 is awesome. I'm not taking away anything off the 11-1-1. I think it's clearly cemented them in the playoffs. I think it's clearly cemented them near or clearly like the best team in the division, if not in the conference. They're on a path to do easily the things you need to do in the regular season. That being said, I don't think this is going to be the perfect ride all the way through. And you saw things can fall apart awfully quickly on a hockey team. We saw it tonight. I don't think we're going to see this very often. I don't think they're up 2 goals and lose a game in regulation in the third period very often. Like, would not expect much of that. But I do think it's not going to be this straightforward every single game the entirety of the year. Like, when they weren't playing all that well and were finding a way to get it to shootout and win in shootout. They have 3 shootout wins. When they were finding a way to come back on some of these teams late in these games, erasing that 2-goal deficit against the Kings. It's not always going to go this perfectly. That being said, it's not always going to go as disastrously as it did in the third period today. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, William Carrier moving up in the lineup. So he, in the middle of the game yesterday, and it was still a game that was kind of in the balance when this happened yesterday. Cassidy moved Carrier up to play with Stone and Stevenson. I thought it was pretty successful yesterday. I thought it was much less successful today. It's not to say it was a bad game out of that trio or anything of that point, but I didn't think that they are generating at the level that we probably would like to see them get to as often as they should be getting to, with having a player like Mark Stone and then Chandler Stevenson, who clearly is a good match with Mark Stone. I am wondering right now if like that's the position that maybe we're looking at down the road. So last year in the playoffs, Howden's there. He basically is a get to the front guy. They did a lot of good defensive work. They were getting a lot of opportunities with Stevenson off the rush, and Stevenson was finishing, and they were getting a lot of these chances. And I liked a lot of what we saw in the postseason last year, but I did think there was a little bit of smoke and mirrors to this, like, let's drag another player along situation. It's not exactly the way that I'd want to supplement Mark Stone. I don't want to have that third player be someone who Mark Stone has to drag with him. And that's not necessarily fair to say, but I think that that's kind of how it's gone down. When it works, it makes it look like that third player is dominating. When it doesn't, we certainly turn our focus towards that. And I look at that and I say, well, I think Carrier, without question, is at his best on the fourth line in the situation that he's been in for basically his entire time with the Golden Knights. And we saw this with Tomasz Nosek. We've seen it with a couple of other guys. Ryan Carpenter at a time, they did this with, guys where you hope, okay, well, we're getting a lot on the fourth line. Let's move him up. Let's put ourselves in a different situation and see if we can get a little bit more, because we have the Ronbiers and the Cotters and those types of guys underneath that can potentially make the difference on the fourth line and do the same job Carrier was doing. I think you lose something without having Carrier on that fourth line. And I thought the fourth line today was not nearly as effective. Cotter, I thought, was pretty good on that fourth line today, but I didn't like a lot of what we saw to Howden. I thought Kolesar was just all right today. We weren't getting the offense generation that we can get out of that fourth line when it's at its best. And obviously Nick Waugh not being here certainly matters. But I think with everybody back in line, the options are still limited for who's going to play in that place. So Barbashev still stays up on that first line with Eichel and Marsh, so it doesn't seem like that's coming apart anytime soon. I'm perfectly fine with leaving Dorofeev on that line with Cotter or with Carlson and Amadio. Then you have Carrier, Waugh, and Kolesar, and now you've got Stevenson and Stone missing the player. You've got Howden, you've got Cotter, you've got that's it, really. And then the question is, do we have to look somewhere else to find that other player? Cotter seems like the best fit for me. Does that actually work all the way through a season? Is that the best case? Is that not a position that we can look to upgrade? Because if you look at the entirety of the team, there's not a lot of place that you can actually upgrade. And as Carrier goes up there and you see kind of the drawbacks from both the second and fourth line when he moves up, the obvious decision that they wanted to do that and were willing to make that move to move Cotter down indicates that Bruce isn't still fully comfortable with that situation. Howden has been pulled off the line. I get that. And Howden can potentially go back there, and we know that there can be success there. But I do think that that's one spot that we might want to keep our eyes on and say, all right, well, I think a shooter would be a really nice option on that line. Like Stevenson obviously does not like to shoot. Stone hasn't been shooting nearly as much this year. Like I think it would be nice to have a guy that's just a trigger guy on that line. Like they've tried Pavel, and I don't think it's been as successful as Pavel has been next to Carlson. I think there's a little bit of comfortability there that he gets next to Carlson that takes away from some of the defensive deficiencies that we've seen there. And I don't think to Pavel, I'm not trying to say that he's terrible, but he's not at the level of William Karlsson. And I think center makes a bigger difference in regards to how well your wingers defend. Like, I don't think Mark Stone can drag along another winger defensively, where I think a center can drag a winger along defensively. So that's where I just look at that and I say, all right, well, we're making these moves, we're making these shuffles, we're making these decisions, and the game kind of falls apart in the back end of this game. Is that a spot where we can maybe look down the road and say, all right, well, if we're going to make a move, if there is going to be an upgrade, is it that spot? And obviously we can go back and, there were guys and options that were here that are not, but whatever, we'll get away from that. This one, think the boys get both Monday and Tuesday off. The current schedule calls for Monday off. It does not call for Tuesday off. We'll see if they go down that road. I would be surprised if they take Tuesday off. I would guess they will do a full skate on Tuesday, and they will do an optional morning skate on Wednesday before the game against LA that night. So my guess would be you will see a full group on Tuesday. They don't usually give them 2 days off unless it's mandated by the NHL, which only happens once or whatever, 3 times, whatever. Christmas it happens. And then there's the bye and then the all-star break. So we get some of that. Where's the one about confidence? The way Bruce was talking sounded like a pickup for LT. Yeah, the same thing about confidence. I'm not worried about that, to be honest with you. Like, I thought he was really good in the previous game. Thought he was pretty good in the first portion of this game. That one play that they made, and I don't know the names of the two dudes that made it, but they had the 2-on-1 break. Guy stops up. Pahal goes sliding by. Stop sliding defenseman. That's stupid. Don't do this. We're NHL players. Nonetheless, we do it. We get this pass to the back door. He rips a one-timer. I actually thought Thompson was in position to make an awesome save there. And unfortunately, that shot goes up and over, and he doesn't get the awesome save. He made a couple of great saves in the previous game. Obviously, the pass he made with the Winnipeg game. Like, I'm not all that worried about Thompson's confidence at this point. I've said it before. I don't love the fact that they've kind of named Hill the starter. I don't think that that was necessary. I don't particularly think that that was the right way to go about it, just in giving Logan what he probably deserves in this situation. It's not like Logan lost his job last year. He got hurt and then wasn't there to take over. He would have been the starter in game 1 of the postseason. He would have been the guy who came in had he been healthy after Brossoit went down. And who knows, do they still win the cup? I don't know. So probably is basically what I'm trying to say. I didn't love that. So, but again, I don't think that confidence is like a huge problem for Thompson now. I do think it's important what the next start is. Like, you don't want to see this thing after that period go down the worst road. Like, we don't need to see that. But, you know, I would assume he probably gets the San Jose game, and are they going to get a shot? So I'm not that worried about it. So we'll go from there. This Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. Should always do that. When you need when you have the need for a lawyer, you know where to go. The Jimmerson Law Firm. Let's see. I'll take some questions. We'll take any questions before we get out of here if anybody else has it. I'm not anti-President's Cup. If that's the option, if we can potentially get there, I'm not afraid of that. It's hard enough to win back-to-back. I don't think it changes it if they have the President's Trophy on top of it or whatever. Like, I'm not that worried about that. So, no, I know that people get all nervous about the jinx and all that, but this team's got enough riding on what they're doing already. If you can back up the years that they had leading up to the Cup, to going to the road that they got to the Cup, to then winning the President's Trophy the following year, then if you win the Cup, like, you're a legit dynasty. If you don't, you still at least have that to fall back on. And like, I think part of this year, and we've heard it from some of the players, we've heard it from Cassidy, part of this year is like validating what happened last year. And that's not necessary because no one's taking the trophy away. The banner's not coming out of the rafters. Like, none of that is going to happen. But at the same time, you don't want to be a team that won and then never really got back there or never really got anywhere close again. You want to be the dynasty style team. And to me, I think this is an opportunity. President's Trophy would be another step in that direction of saying that's what we're doing. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm and to Graffiti Park for sponsoring all these Periscopes. Make sure you hit up Graffiti Park if you need a mural in your house. It is fantastic, or in your business or wherever else. And it was when winning matters and you need a lawyer, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. I will be back. I don't know, one of these games. I highly doubt I'm going to do the Sharks game, so maybe I will do Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see. Prediction on the Kings game, I would be shocked if they lose 2 in a row. So I got to say they're going to win. I think after losing this one, letting it get away, having the 2 days home game, I think they're probably going to win by multiple goals. Let's go 3-1 against the Kings. That's it. Good night, everybody. See you.